Part 1. The Hidden Dependence. The need to be understood is often the fear of standing alone. Most people believe wanting to be understood is healthy, and to a degree, it is. Communication matters, connection matters, being heard matters. But there is a difference between healthy communication and emotional dependence on validation. One is relational, the other is structural. If your inner stability depends on whether others understand you, you are not autonomous. You are externally regulated, and external regulation is fragile. Because people misunderstand, they project, they interpret through their own filters. They don't always see your intention. If your peace collapses every time that happens, you are dependent on perception. Here's the psychological core. The ego wants coherence in the eyes of others. It wants to be seen correctly, interpreted fairly, judged positively. And when that doesn't happen, it feels threatened. Not physically, existentially. Because identity built on external understanding is not self-owned. It's negotiated. So you explain yourself repeatedly. You justify, you defend, you clarify, you over-communicate, not because clarity is wrong, but because misunderstanding feels intolerable. And intolerance is a signal of dependence. From a Stoic perspective, this is simple. You control your intentions and actions. You do not control interpretation. Trying to control interpretation is trying to control what does not belong to you. And that attempt creates tension. The more you need others to confirm who you are, the less grounded you become in who you are, because your identity floats on feedback. So the question becomes uncomfortable. Why does misunderstanding feel so threatening? That's where psychology enters, and that's what we unpack next. Part 2. Recognition addiction and the ego. The need to be understood is often rooted in early adaptation. At some point, being understood equaled safety. Maybe you had to explain yourself to avoid punishment. Maybe you had to be the good one to receive approval. Maybe misunderstanding led to rejection. So the system learned, if they don't understand me, I'm not safe. That belief does not disappear automatically with adulthood. It becomes subtle. It becomes ego maintenance. Recognition addiction is not about praise. It's about confirmation. Confirmation that you are right, good, reasonable, fair, valuable. And when confirmation is missing, anxiety rises. The ego reacts. You feel the urge to correct the narrative, to fix the perception, to ensure your side is seen. But here's the deeper problem. The more you chase understanding, the more you outsource self-definition. You give other people the authority to validate your inner state. That is psychological dependence. And dependence breeds reactivity. If someone criticizes you unfairly, you feel destabilized. If someone misreads your intention, you feel compelled to explain. If someone doesn't acknowledge your effort, you feel unseen. Now bring in Stoicism. The Stoics made a radical distinction. Some things are within your control, some are not. Your actions, within. Your character, within. Your effort, within. Other people's opinions, not within. If your emotional stability depends on what is not within your control, you will always be vulnerable. This is not about indifference, it's about hierarchy. Your relationship with yourself must outrank your relationship with external perception. Otherwise, you will always negotiate your identity, and negotiation weakens autonomy. Let's be precise. There is nothing wrong with wanting to be understood. The problem begins when you cannot tolerate being misunderstood. You feel incomplete without recognition. You measure your worth by external validation. You lose calm when your narrative isn't accepted. That is ego dependency. And ego dependency always leads to inner instability. So what does inner autonomy actually look like? That's the final part. Part 3. Inner autonomy. Strength without validation. Inner autonomy is not coldness. It's not isolation. It's not emotional shutdown. It is stability without confirmation. It is the ability to stand in your intention even when misunderstood. Here's how that develops. First, separate intention from interpretation. Your responsibility ends at clarity of intention and integrity of action. Once you've acted cleanly, interpretation belongs to others. If they misunderstand, that is their filter, not your failure. Second, tolerate being misread. This is uncomfortable. Your ego will want to correct the narrative, but autonomy requires tolerance of distortion, not because distortion is good, but because control over it is impossible. Strength is the ability to remain composed when your image is not perfectly represented. Third, anchor identity internally. Ask yourself, if nobody confirmed my perspective, would I still believe it? If the answer is no, your belief depends on consensus. Consensus is unstable. Internal clarity is stable. Fourth, reduce explanation impulses. Notice when you over-explain. Often, over-explaining is not about clarity. It's about anxiety. Practice saying less, not to withdraw, but to test your stability without external reassurance. Fifth, shift from being understood to understanding yourself. The more precisely you understand your motives, fears, values, and boundaries, the less you need external agreement. Self-knowledge reduces validation hunger. And here's the paradox. The less you need to be understood, the more powerful your presence becomes, because you are no longer negotiating for approval. You are not defensive. You are not reactive. You are not fragile. You act, you speak, you stand. And if others misunderstand, you remain centered. That is Stoic strength, not suppression, not arrogance, autonomy. When your inner state does not collapse because someone failed to see you clearly, you are free. Because freedom is not being perfectly perceived. Freedom is being internally grounded regardless of perception. So remember, the need to be understood is natural, but dependence on being understood is weakness. Autonomy begins where ego urgency ends. If this made you uncomfortable, pay attention to that. Discomfort often reveals dependence. If you want more content like this, calm, precise, and focused on psychological depth and Stoic strength, you can follow this channel. New videos will continue exploring autonomy, ego, and inner mastery. Thanks for listening. I'll see you in the next one.